I was thinking about our promised land. You know, it's so easy to get our eyes on the junk around our life, on the trash that's happening, and just sort of lose hope. It made me think of like the children of Israel, right? Back in that story in the Old Testament where they'd wandered in the wilderness for, was it 40 years or something, right? And just wandered around, and the reason they were wandering is because they were looking for, well, they were waiting for the old to die. The old people that just complained and whinged, and it was never enough. And really, we could say it, they wanted to be God, right? They wanted to be God of their own lives. They thought they knew what was best, and they just wanted to whine about it. And so they wanted for 40 years, waiting for that last person to die. Imagine being that last person waiting to die. Everybody's counting the time. But anyway, here they were, just heading into the promised land with Joshua as their leader. Moses had moved on, and he'd gone, and Joshua was going to take him over the river into the promised land. And one of the things he did, which is what I wanted to talk about today, is Joshua said to the people, consecrate yourselves, which is it's a word that maybe people don't really know what that means, and I'll, explain that in a moment. He said, consecrate yourselves as we're going over into the promised land. We're going over. We're not going under. We're going over. And everything we've lived for is finally here. All these years of wandering, all these years of wondering, all these years of living what we didn't want to live, doing what we didn't want to do, being where we didn't want to be. And we're going over. Now there was giants, not giants, I don't know about giants. There was like people in the land that were hostile to that. They didn't want them coming in. And so the consecration was where they started to look at their lives and go, okay, where do I need to change in my life? What are the changes I need to make? I need to get with all the right people in all the right places, doing all the right things. And in that time of sort of allowing their lives to be flushed, and just saying, okay, the things that I've struggled to try to keep that really probably shouldn't be here, the things that I've used to prop myself up and to get through in painful times, they've served their purpose. Sometimes the company that I've been keeping is not the best company. The places I've been in are not places that are best for where I'm going. A lot of places and things and people we're with are born out of hopelessness. They've come out of times of need. They've come out of times of lack. Times where we've tried to get somewhere in life and held on to things that maybe for that time were good, but are not any longer. And to me, it's just a very pivotal time in the children of Israel's lives, because they consecrated themselves. They put away foreign gods from among them. They put away things that shouldn't be in their life and they knew shouldn't have been there. And they went across into the promised land. And as they crossed into the promised land, God made a way for the things, the people, the stuff that would have stopped them and oppressed them. God fought their battle for them instead of them having to fight. And that's a precious time in life when you get to that point where you can look and say, you know what, God's fighting for me. I can lay down a little bit on the fight. I don't have to fight everything that comes at me. But as I've consecrated, as I've allowed God to purge my life of things I know shouldn't be there, it can be scary, right? Things that I've held on to, they've had their time. They've had their shelf life. And it's time to let go. And that could be addictions. It can be addictions to doing it your way. As they crossed into the promised land, they still had their battles, but you can read it yourself if you're that interested in the Old Testament. God fought for them. And they just basically entered. They still had to put effort in and fight some things, but God had already made the way for them. And I feel like that's a time and an invitation that's going out to our lives now. A time of saying, I'm going to bless you when there is no hope. I'm going to take you where you thought you could never go. And we have this mentality that's religious, that we think we have to earn good things in life. You don't earn them. Love is not earned, it's given. Unconditional love is given. And you know, when unconditional love is there, our shortcomings, our failures are actually seen as opportunities for love. Opportunities for love to blossom and grow. It just takes a willing heart. And I think as we consecrate, as we lay things aside and start to say, okay, God, there is no hope in this world. There's no way of entering this promised land. Look at the people that are in the land that are killers and people that are wanting to stop us coming in. Look at the economy. Look at the globalists. Look at the governments of this world that want to define our lives and tell us that you can't have peace, you can't have freedom, you can't have life. God says, but when you walk in my economy, you can. And I want to tell you, for my life, I've never seen a time like the present. There's no time like now. To let go and to just say, okay, God, have your way. I don't understand. I can't control. I can't force things to come to my life. I don't want to push things away from my life that you want there. It's like saying, God, have your way in my life. Have your way in my heart. That's the absolute surrender, isn't it? It's saying, I know there's steps I need to take, and me personally in my life. I can look and say there's things that I know they've served their time in my life, and they need to be let go of. And just actions and habits and old ways of thinking, because we're going into the new, we're going into a promised land. And I think that invitation goes out to each and every one of us today. Are you prepared to enter a promised land, or do you want to live in the failure of the past? Do you want to live in the struggles of the past? Do you want to live in the fears of the past, the anxieties, the depressions, the insecurities? Or can we say, God, have your way in my life. Have your way in my life. Out of that absolute surrender comes absolute peace. And there's only one person that can surrender, and it's you. It's you. The only person that can surrender in my life is me. So anyways, I've just been sitting today thinking about how beautiful life really is, even with all of its challenges. Looking and going, God, there's just, as we look at the future of what the government systems and the globalists are trying to bring in and do, there's so much of no hope. But I have so much hope, because I can see the answer, I can see the way, I can see where we need to be. But I can also see the changes that need to happen in my heart and in my life. So, well, some of those, right? They're a journey. And what's important, the biggest gift is when we can see change and we have the strength to do it. So I want to encourage you today, walk in what is for you. There's a new and living way. Walk ye in it. Walk in what's for your life. Walk in that surrender. And just say, God, have your way in my heart today. Alrighty, God bless.